I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings.
Colbert could not hide his constant rage that Donald Trump was president.
He perpetrated a lie. He told the American people that Biden was fit, and he has yet to apologize for that.
Him, and everybody around him.
You know, I did watch that and think, he's got a point.
You can't just rewrite history to fit whatever convenient narrative that you want.
That's what you do, Lindy. That's what you're known for, rewriting history.
There's now a genuine bona fide superstar in the game, and I don't care about her skin color. She's fantastic.
Can we put this into perspective? Because the WNBA is making $200 million a year versus $10 billion for the NBA. So when they wear T-shirts that say "Pay us what you owe us," it actually means you should give us a pay cut.
Stephen Colbert says the gloves are off for the remaining run of The Late Show after CBS cancelled it last week. Trump's critics say it's down to political pressure. Colbert's critics say it's down to the show's $40 million annual losses. Elsewhere in talk show land, the Queen of Kindness, Ellen DeGeneres, who was cancelled for being very unkind, now says she's permanently moving to the UK to avoid the president. And a certain handsy duo, a Saturday's Coldplay gig, might be tempted to follow her. Their extramarital tryst, now seen by tens of millions of people, has sparked a lively debate about the morality of the concert jumbotron. Well, joining me to debate all this, former DNC fundraiser Lindy Li, host of the Bad Faith podcast, Briahna Joy Gray, former Kamala Harris senior advisor and organizer of White Dudes for Harris, Mike Nellis, and Mickey's Uncensored debut, host of Brad versus Everyone, Brad Polumbo. So welcome to all of you. Okay, let's talk first of all about Stephen Colbert. Brad, you kick us off. I've seen all sorts of distraught liberals crying around about all this, but it seems to me a fairly straightforward decision on multiple levels. One, the show was apparently losing $40 million a year. Two, ratings for all late night, with the exception of Greg Gutfeld at Fox, have basically been tanking now for a couple of decades. As people gravitate actually to shows like this. And thirdly, Colbert could not hide his constant rage that Donald Trump was president. And it may have worked for a bit of the first term, but when you start doing it all over again in the second term, and people think I've got 4 more years of this again, I don't know why they would ever think that's going to resonate with the public. And I want to play a clip before you answer. This is Jay Leno talking to me about what should happen in a late night show. Let's watch this.
I just stopped doing politics and my act altogether because, you know, when I did the Tonight Show, the idea was you made fun of both sides equally, and you get those, Miss Leno, you and your Republican friends, well, Miss Leno, you and your Democratic buddies, you know, and they'd both be angry. And I go, oh, that's good. You know, they both think you're supporting the other guy. Now you've got to take a side, and people are angry if you don't. And I find what I would start to tell a political joke. Well, they want to know the punchline before, is this pro or against it? You know, so I just stopped doing it.
And he was so smart, I think, Jay Leno. It's a bit like, you know, Johnny Carson. He famously never took political sides. He just, you know, teased and mocked everybody, but in quite a warm way. Now they all see themselves, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel, whether it's Stephen Colbert, you know, all of them. I mean, Jimmy Fallon, not so much, but I just think the other big ones, they can't hide their open disdain for someone who's been re-elected president and has more than half the country who like him.
Yeah, look, I think the market has spoken, and when you have a show that's losing $40 million a year get canceled, that's not some act of fascism or creeping censorship or any of the things that I've seen it described by panicked, breathless Democratic politicians and liberal media critics. I mean, even on when they were granted anonymity, insiders at CBS, which probably lean liberal, probably don't like Trump, told CNN that this was a financial decision, not a political one. So the doomsday rhetoric about it is really misplaced. And it's part of a broader boy who cried wolf phenomenon with Trump, who I think has done a fair number of genuinely concerning things. But many in liberal media and many Democratic politicians can't help but dial up the alarmism to a 10 every time he does almost anything. And in this case, when he didn't do anything at all. So I think they're really discrediting discrediting themselves, and legitimate criticisms they might have about his positions on free speech or the free press. When you look at him retaliating against the Wall Street Journal recently and other things, stop this constant meltdown mode over everything.
Yeah, I mean, Briahna, I just don't get why they think it's a winning proposition to be just screaming constantly about Donald Trump. You know, you can have your problems with Trump. I've been very critical of Trump over the years, and I've been supportive when I think he deserves it. But this hysteria, which has permeated into late night, completely changing the mood of late night television in America from one of kind of warm mockery of all political classes to extremely partisan activism in favour of one over the other. Just because you think a few liberals may not like it if you say anything positive about Trump or don't hammer him enough, I just don't get that at all.
Yeah, I like what you said about the host not putting themselves in the position of taking sides, but I would modify that a little bit. I think they should sort of take a side. They should take the side of the public, right? Yeah. They're supposed to be there to skewer both parties, to skewer politicians and elites who are not representing their interest on a fundamental level. And when you get to a place where it becomes not taking the side of the public, but being partisan in nature, I think that's part of what you can attribute the dwindling audience of these mainstream cable shows to. That being said, it is concerning given the backdrop of all of this, the CBS merger with Skydance, and some reporting that there's concerns that a more pro-Trump sort of ownership might be leading the networks to sort of reorganize themselves to basically censor content, the hosts and such of their shows, to anticipate making the politics of running these corporations a little bit easier in the Trump era. And one thing that's a little bit difficult to suss out what's going on here is that because across the board, these cable shows are doing so poorly that it's very easy to attribute cancellation to them not making money. Like, that is obviously true. It was true of Joy Reid as well, right? I know you recently had an interview with her. Yeah. I've been very critical of Joy Reid over the years. And you can plausibly say her show wasn't making money. It wasn't doing well. But it is also true that her show hadn't been making money for a while. And maybe it was her escalation and being critical of Israel that was the but-for factor.
I honestly don't. I saw you said that. I don't think it was that. I mean, look, Joy Reid accused me after that. I'd never even met Joy Reid. I had nothing against her. It's fine. She's had a whack at me a few times. I've whacked her a few times. She came on and she accused me of a race-baiting ambush. And she pulled up an email from my booker with the invitation, promising a free-flowing conversation covering several topics in her wheelhouse, including the Trump administration, Elon Musk establishing a new political party, ICE raids and news of the day, as well as Reid's departure from MSNBC and her new online venture, which is exactly what we talked about. There were a few other things in her life which, given I'd never interviewed her, I thought would be quite interesting to ask her about. And she threw her toys out the stroller. And apparently it was a race-baiting ambush. Nonsense.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because her reaction was emblematic, I think, of why people are so frustrated with liberal hosts like hers. Look, I'm coming from the left. I remember when she was spending most of the time during her show lambasting Bernie Sanders, punching left, defending the Democratic Party as an entity and the kind of leaders of the Democratic Party, or who seemed to be the establishment pick in the 2019 era 2020 primary. Because for her, it did really feel like it was about partisanship as opposed to what was popular at the time, which was this left populism in Bernie and the right populism that was represented in Donald Trump. And when the stories about her old blog came up in the homophobic comments, I completely agree with you, Piers, that I'm personally very tolerant of personal growth. If she wanted to say that she's changed her mind over the years and we should forgive and forget, like, I'm not interested in hanging her over some opinion that she had 15, 20 years ago. But the insistence that the FBI needed to be hired to investigate,
it was all ridiculous. She
been...
obviously wrote it and then felt embarrassed, and that's fine. Mike Nellis, I mean, well, let's talk about Joy Reid first of all. Joy Reid was fired because she was losing ratings, losing money, and losing popular appeal. People just found it very boring. And I want to play a clip of Jon Stewart, who I really like, Jon Stewart. I'm never a big fan of Joy Reid's output, but Jon Stewart I am. But this was his reaction to Colbert getting let go.
Little bit quiet. Fuck yourself. Just go fuck yourself.
I mean, come on, John. You know, why be so hysterical about it? Apart from anything else, Colbert's getting a 10-month way to go out. I mean, 10 months more, presumably, as he just did last night, hammering Trump every show. It's going to be unbelievably tedious to watch, and proof, really, of why he had to go, because he's just too partisan.
Well, it's too bad that's the part of the Stewart segment that you played, because the monologue that he had before was actually pretty good, and then he ended it with an incredibly cliche song and dance number that I thought undercut the entirety of it.
Yeah.
But look, we're going through some big changes in the media landscape right now, and I think Colbert and Joy Reid both are emblematic of that. With Colbert, in this case, two things are true. I think it's pretty clear that Donald Trump and the White House put pressure on Paramount to get rid of him. And Donald Trump basically said as much. He's literally celebrating it on social media, saying,
I don't think that Trump had anything to do with
Trump
Colbert.
Listen, Piers, Trump is going on Truth Social, and he's celebrating Colbert getting canceled, and he's saying that Jimmy Kimmel should be next.
He's happy about it, but what's the
another example
evidence?
of Donald Trump using the power of the federal government.
You know, guess what, Mike?
Now, that said, hold on, can I finish my point?
But Mike,
you didn't interrupt anybody else.
But Mike, here's my point. Guess what? Donald Trump is happy that a guy that's been slagging him off for 8 years on national
Can I make my
television
second
is
point,
not
though?
going to be doing it anymore. I'd be happy.
Fine. Let me make my second point, though. The format of late night TV, really cable news in general, is completely broken.
Yeah.
So I actually think Colbert getting canceled will be the best thing for him, because Colbert's a funny guy. He's a good interviewer. He's got good stories to tell. He was better on the podcast that he had during the pandemic with the other, or excuse me, not during the pandemic, during the writer's strike. He'll be better in whatever he does next than this, because he's sort of devoted to a platform that's dying. I think the same will probably be true of Kimmel and Fallon whenever they eventually get canceled.
Yeah, they'll end up like Jim Acosta, who has a very successful Substack in which he's now full-on Trump bashing. And that's fine. Go on Substack, be full-on Trump bashing, whatever your rocks
it's
your
no
boat.
different than you having this platform where you can say whatever you want without a big media conglomerate telling you what you want. So
sure,
the
but
media
I think the
landscape
difference
is getting
between
more fragmented. People are going out and doing it.
Right, the difference between me and those guys is that they were unashamedly partisan while they were in their jobs where they were supposed not to be. And now they can be unashamedly partisan on platforms because they don't need to abide by the old rules, but they didn't anyway. I mean, Lindy Li, I've noticed this, Trump has brought out the worst in so many people on the left, right? Because the best way to pick off Trump is to pick off his ideas, to stay calm. It drives him nuts when people stay calm. Stay calm, stay warm, congratulate him when he gets stuff right. But if you really want to play into Trump's hands, then be full-on deranged. And if you do that, he absolutely loves it, because it shows partisan mainstream bias. And that's all he wants.
Absolutely. President Trump loves being a troll. One thing I do want to mention about Stephen Colbert, I've seen a lot of postmortems about the situation, but no one has really mentioned that he perpetrated a lie upon the American people. I helped to co-host a fundraiser that he did on March 28th, 2024 at Radio City Music Hall with Obama, Clinton, and Biden. And by that time, Biden was so decrepit, he had trouble walking off the stage, had trouble articulating any thoughts. Our event was also just bombarded by like 10 different protesters. The event was a complete disaster, but Stephen Colbert was a headliner for that event. He told the American people that Biden was fit, that he was somehow a genius behind closed doors, that he was running circles around everybody, just that we just shouldn't believe our lying eyes, that this guy wasn't fit. And he has yet to apologize for that. How do you have any credibility left without issuing a mea culpa? How do you have any sort of trust with most of America when you basically designated half of them as liars, as conspiracy theorists?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I'll come back to you, Brad. Hunter Biden's given this explosive podcast interview, which I have to say
unbelievable.
Shameless. Shameless, but actually incredibly watchable and interesting. And I kind of, as a father of 3 sons, I quite admired him going into bat for his dad in such an unbelievably full-on, aggressive, torching way.
Train wreck fashion.
But let's watch this clip of what he said about George Clooney.
Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck him and everybody around him. I don't have to be fucking nice. Number one, I agree with Quentin Tarantino. Fucking George Clooney is not a fucking actor. He is a fucking, I don't know what he is. He's a brand. And by the way, and God bless him. You know what? He supposedly treats his friends really well. You know what I mean? Buys them things. And he's got a really great place in Lake Como. And he's great friends with Barack Obama. Fuck you. What do you have to do with fucking anything? Why do I have to fucking listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his fucking life to the service of this country and decide that you, George Clooney, are going to take out basically a full-page ad in the fucking New York Times.
You know, I did watch that and think he's got a point. I mean, I did find the way that people like Clooney behave, where they're all in on Biden, right to the point the debate happened, and then everybody could see with their own eyes just how appalling his cognitive condition had become. Only at that stage did Clooney press the execution ramp with that New York Times op-ed. And it did seem at the time very self-serving and disingenuous to me. And all right, Hunter Biden may not be the most credible witness or defendant here, but actually a lot of what he was saying had a lot of truth about it. I mean, the way the Democrats, the liberal world, the liberal celebrities all competed to protect the reality from the American people about Biden. And then the moment they realized they couldn't do it anymore, they chucked him under a bus. All of it was unedifying.
Yeah, it was really. It was.
Oh, Lindy, I'm going to let Brad answer that one. Sorry, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, it was really quite a 180-degree turn that we saw from many of these people who propped him up for years. I remember the mainstream media coining the term cheap fakes to talk about videos that were real, showing Biden's decline, but just misleading somehow. A lot of them did do a 180, though I do tend to take the approach in politics, better late than never, to the correct position. I will say, obviously, George Clooney stabbed Biden in the back, but maybe he was right to do so. He just should have done it several years earlier. I found this Hunter Biden interview fascinating. He's definitely a character, but it's also, the whole thing is insanely hypocritical. He's saying, who are you to listen to George Clooney? Hunter Biden is only known for being Joe Biden's son and being put on boards of Ukrainian energy companies because of his brand as a member of the Biden family. Other than that, he's best known for being a deadbeat dad. And he took shots at the liberal Pod Save America bros, which I'm no huge fan of, but he was like, you just rode being a junior speechwriter for Obama. And I'm like, okay, but you just rode being the son of a politician. So, I mean, entertaining to watch. He makes some good points, but the entire Hunter interview is rife with some really galling hypocrisy and audacity.
You know what? I think he's just got to the stage, Briahna, where he doesn't give a fuck anymore.
No, there's no stakes.
And I think, honestly, I don't blame him. It's like he's had so much crap poured on his head, and his dad's been absolutely buried. And he's really, a lot of it is just anger at the people who he thinks have just been so disingenuous. And, I'm not defending for a moment all the stuff Hunter got up to, but my God, has he paid for that? And I think that a lot of it was just the anger of a son who's watched these people sucking up to his dad, probably in the most nauseating manner. Clooney with that fundraiser in LA, nothing to see here. Look at this guy, the next president, he's great. And then the first chance he gets where the people can see that's bullshit, he chucks him under a double-decker. I get why Hunter's like this.
Yeah, look, I think Brad really hit it out of the park, but I will say this, as much as the interpersonal dynamics of this are all hilarious and fascinating, as much as it's entertaining to hear him sort of dogpile the Pod Save bros who were also like lead participants in leading the Democratic Party into the disaster that was the Biden candidacy and turned into the Kamala Harris nomination. The fact of the matter is what we're missing sight of is that the people were never given a choice. This conspiracy in which the Pod Save people participated, in which the Biden family participated, in which the entire Democratic Party participated, as was unpacked in great detail in the Jake Tapper, Alex Thompson book. I talked to Alex Thompson recently on my own show, Bad Faith, about this. The level of detail of the cover-up is really overwhelming. All for what purpose? There simply could have been a primary. This is about removing democracy from the hands of half the country who are interested in at least exploring an option outside of Donald Trump. And they were precluded from having that opportunity because the dynasty of the Bidens, the fact of committing to the establishment of the Democratic Party, the unwillingness to even open the door, crack the door to seeing if someone could plausibly beat Biden in a primary and prove their electability in a general election was so distasteful that they lied and ignored the fact that this man was visibly senile even back during the 2019-2020 primary season, where if I recall correctly, both Julian Castro and Cory Booker were sort of summarily disappeared from being future leaders of the Democratic Party after they had the temerity to point out during one of those early debates that Joe Biden didn't seem to be able to remember what he had just said on the debate stage.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, you were ex-senior advisor to Kamala Harris. Why didn't she tell the American people earlier what she must have seen on a daily basis?
Well, I was a senior advisor to Harris before she became vice president. I think ultimately the entire
but I mean, obviously you know
failed.
her well. I just wonder why do you think she played along with the huge cover-up? Because she obviously did. No one was spending more time with him than she was. I think that the entire Democratic Party failed here. And I've been public about that for a long time. I would also say, like, Lindy Li wants to stand over there and talk about credibility when she was alongside Joe Biden for the entirety of the campaign, never said anything until it was politically convenient.
That's totally not true, though, because
No,
in
it's
July
totally true. You didn't say anything until the minute it was no longer politically convenient for you, and you thought that there was money to be made by becoming a conservative pundit. Let's be clear about that for a second. And you know what you did, Lindy. You know what you did, Lindy. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party is in a terrible situation because of people like you who then jump ship the first chance they get to get money from MAGA world. That's exactly what happened.
What money did I get from MAGA World? You can't just make up shit.
You're making all kinds of money as a conservative influencer right now. I'm sure you're hawking a book. You've got some like silly View type show out there. Like, come on. You were there. You talk about being there. You just said it yourself.
And I actually had the guts when most people didn't. I had the guts in July 2024. Mike, are you going to let me talk or not?
What's your credibility for speaking out? You didn't say one goddamn thing.
If you're going to launch an ambush against me, I have every right to respond. I came out in July 2024. I went on Fox News Sunday and I said, Biden isn't cognitively fit to run. The day before, somebody from the White House actually called to threaten me and said, we know you're the president's most loyal supporter.
I don't believe that at all, Lindy.
We know you're going to stay loyal. Mike, so you can't just rewrite history to fit whatever convenient narrative that you want.
Well, that's what you do, Lindy. That's what you're known for, rewriting history. So
are you not hearing what I just said? In July 2024 and before, and I'm on record,
That's
September
pretty late,
2023,
Lindy.
I went and I asked Ken Martin, who was then vice chair, do you think Biden's too old to run? And he said that's nothing. He
Lindy, you can tell all the stories you want about private conversations that you had, but you're going to question somebody else's credibility for not stepping forward. You were at the front of that line. You positioned yourself as somebody who was right there.
Wait, I was saying it in 2020. Do I get a prize?
Good for you. It took me a while to realize that. I bought into all the narrative.
Why, Lindy? Why was it that the establishment pundits? Why was it that people that were close to Biden were unable to see what the rest of the world could see?
That's the deal.
I just told you. Why was it so? I have been exiled. I was banned from the Biden White House. How's that good for me? I was banned from the White House for daring to tell the truth. Okay?
No, you weren't. Like, none of that is true.
I'm sorry?
None of that is true, to be honest with you. I've been in Democratic politics for 20 years.
I didn't hear your name. I
didn't hear your name until you appeared on Fox News the night that we lost. That's it.
Well, that's not true.
So, like,
I'm sorry that you didn't hear my name, but I did come out and say this.
It's no different than what a lot of people do.
Okay, well, look, since we're getting along so famously,
on this, Lindy.
All right, time out.
You're the gatekeeper.
Time out.
I'm not the gatekeeper of anything, but if you're going to tell me about the future of the Democratic Party and where we went wrong, you are a part of that problem. And you know what? I'm grateful that you switched sides because now they've got one more grifter that they can deal with.
You both made your...
That's not true because the Democratic Party didn't pay me a single dime. In fact, I raised millions for them.
Time out. Look, why don't we use this breakdown in the relationship between the two of you as the segue into the other relationship which broke down, and probably a few others with it, which was the extraordinary moment of the Coldplay
Jumbotron. I still don't know who you are.
Sorry, Lindy?
I still don't know who this guy is. Like, who is he? I've never heard of him.
Who? The CEO of the...
This is the guy to the second from the left.
Oh, Mike Nellis. Oh, he's a former senior advisor to Kamala.
Is he some internet troll?
Yes, but I think that's a qualification for being on your show, right, Piers?
Right. Let's just move on to my segue. I thought it was a nice link, actually, of fractured relationships. We've certainly seen a breakdown in you two and your relationship, even if you don't know who he is, Lindy. So this, as you know, this is the Jumbotron hug that went around the world and was to have enormous consequences. So you've got this couple. She was the HR boss, Christine Cabot, which didn't seem very good HR behavior, given she was caught canoodling with the CEO of the company, Andy Byron. What do we think of this? Briahna, let me start with you on this. I mean, Chris Martin fueled the fire of gossip by saying, I hope you two aren't having an affair or something. But actually, it was one fan who captured all of this on her phone. on the camera, who then posted it. And that's now had like 100 million views. What does this whole thing, because the guy's now lost his job, she's kept her job for now, presumably some marriages are at risk and so on. And before you answer, here's a clip of Liam Gallagher at his recent Oasis gig saying this.
Right then, do we have any lovebirds in the house? Don't worry, we ain't got any of that Coldplay snidey fucking camera shit. Doesn't matter to us who you're fucking mingling with, or tingling with, fingering with. None of our fucking business. But this one's for the lovebirds anyway.
So, Briahna, what do we make of this? It's gone around, though. Everyone's been talking about this thing. What do we think of it?
Yeah, I think it's a little silly to put the responsibility on two people who've decided to have an affair on a random concert goer who's filming their experience and happens to upload a funny clip to the internet, right? Even the person who uploaded it didn't know if those two were having an affair. Right. It took internet sleuthers some time to even figure out what was going on there and why they had the sort of outsized reaction that they did. I think there's legitimate concerns to raise about surveillance and CCTV and, the Amazon doorbell cameras and all of that, and how they're applied in the surveillance state that we all live in. But attributing the kind of family breakdown and the consequences of their affair to the fact of someone owning a cell phone, are we going to round up people's cell phones now to make sure that cheaters are never caught? I don't know that those things are really
I think Brad, the real problem here was just they were so stupid. I mean, if you're the CEO of a big company with thousands of employees and you're hugging your HR boss, or you're having an affair with, and you're at a Coldplay gig where they do put people who are hugging or dancing on the Jumbotron, I mean, it just raised questions about judgment.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly stupid on two levels. One, to go out when you're having an affair in public like this, and two, to freak out when the camera panned to you. Because if they had just played it cool, like a normal couple, and kissed, it probably would never have gone viral. Their spouses probably would never have seen it, and this whole headache wouldn't have happened. I have a hard time having too much sympathy for either of them, because obviously, they're doing an incredibly immoral thing. They're putting their families through hell. I will say, though, that I worry a little bit about the extent to which society seems to revel in the downfall like this, like hang on every word of their lives being destroyed and turned upside down. I'm not sure it's healthy, the way that culturally people tune in to obsess, to watch someone's life fall apart. I'm not sure that's good for our souls as viewers and onlookers to take joy in the destruction of other people's lives, even if that destruction is, in this case, admittedly brought about.
I kind of agree. I agree with that. I mean, Lindy, the thing about it is, we're all thoroughly entertained by this, but the reality of the fallout from that is going to be pretty awful for their families and so on. And there's a kind of glee that people bring to that kind of thing, which is a modern day curse driven by social media. Should we be reveling in these things with all the thousands of memes and all that? I mean, it's easy to do it, but do we slightly lose touch of our humanity, or do they deserve everything that's coming their way?
Well, that's a good point. I do want to mention that the astronomer CEO, Andy, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So before you have an ounce of sympathy for him, I really think he's going to be okay. That is my hunch. And also,
only about half of that when they're done, though.
I thought there was a mob mentality going on right now. I do want to say that I love how people have gravitated around the consensus that adultery is bad. Make adultery bad again. I think over the past decades,
Matt Walsh actually says that adultery should be a criminal offence punishable by serious prison time for both parties involved.
Okay, maybe not that far, but at least that's a little bit extreme. But I think, I think you shouldn't be going to a Coldplay concert, one of the most mainstream events. Why would you go there and parade around your mistress? It doesn't even make sense to me. If anything,
with another coworker, by the way.
Of judgment.
By the way, not just any old coworker, the HR boss. I mean, come on, man. Mike Nellis. Obviously, you're never going to get caught in this situation with Lindy. I think we've established that certainly from this panel tonight.
I mean, first of all, the idea of having an affair is exhausting to me. I can't even imagine just the logistics of having to do it. But this was a really stupid thing to do. Matt Walsh's comment about making adultery illegal is also really stupid. That's definitely not something the federal government should be doing. That guy has zero chill. But what I do want to talk about is, I agree that I think there is a reveling in a, haha, look at that guy sort of mentality. But I think that's just human nature. But if the memes are as good as they've been in the last week, I think I'm okay with it. There's been some really incredible ones, like photoshops of Pam and Dwight from The Office, and Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, like a whole AI recreation of them getting caught on screen because Donald Trump doesn't want anybody to know that he was friends with Epstein. So like, I love the memes. I enjoy them. I think it's okay to sort of enjoy it when it happens, and doesn't make you a bad person for laughing at something.
I think my favorite one.
One other thing to that.
Well, my favorite one actually was the one where he says something like, it was a fake apology from the boss, and it just said, it
was really good.
I'm so sorry, I'm humiliated, I'm ashamed, and blah. It goes on and on and on. Eventually says, I never told my wife I was a Coldplay fan.
Can I add just one thing to that, Piers? That I think I understand that it's distasteful to revel in somebody else's misfortune, but I will say that it's not just that. I think that some folks are reacting to this being a really good example of how HR isn't there to protect employers, something that most of us who've been employed, those of us who've been employed at like a major corporation understand in a really real way. For all of the kind of critique around DEI programs and some of the excesses of HR, this is a really good example that a lot of those programs are implemented so that the company can say, hey, we have this policy in place. You can't sue us. It protects us. It doesn't protect you. And when you have this literal canoodling between the head of an HR department and its CEO, it really begs the question, if you were to report something to HR that was obviously against the interest of the CEO, do you think she was going to look out for your interest? Do you think that she was going to report things up the chain adequately? Do you think that maybe you would get retaliated against and fired instead of the people who are actually doing something wrong being held accountable? So I think that some of the Schadenfreude isn't just, I'm glad to see rich people fall, or I'm glad to see people having an affair fall. It's showing that these corporations have these legal structures to protect themselves when workers' rights are so fragile, and they get to act with such impunity, going out in public, not just at a Coldplay concert that's public, but with another employee from the corporation, suggesting that it's a sort of an open secret around the people who have immunity and impunity at that organization.
I mean, having said all that, 40% of marriages used to start with an office romance. So I do wonder what's happened to that statistic, whether they're all on Tinder and Grindr now. Who knows?
Well, I think it's actually higher now because like young people in particular are having trouble finding third spaces to go hang out with people, so they're spending way more time with their coworkers. And
right, but they can't do anything with the coworkers because it's illegal. And they all get
well,
fired.
it's not illegal, but it's
so they're now probably not having sex with anybody, which seems to me heartbreaking.
I mean, there's also there's a lot of evidence
Gen
of that
Z isn't
too.
really having sex anymore.
I don't think they do they? I think they're missing out. Talking not of sex, but of matters divided by sex, huge divide in the wake of the WNBA players wearing warm-up shirts saying, pay us what you owe us at Saturday's All-Star game. Hillary Clinton slightly missed the point. She said, everyone watches women's sports. The players should be paid what they're owed. I stand with the WNBA and everyone else fighting for equal pay. They're not actually asking for equal pay. However, NBA players make 50% of revenue. WNBA make 9%. There's no real comparison there. And I've got a question for all of you. You may not like this question, but apart from Caitlin Clark, can any of you name, without looking down at your phones or your iPads, another WNBA? Briahna?
Sophia Cunningham.
Hang on. Briahna, I need a name of another WNBA player.
Angel Reese.
Okay.
Brad,
give me another one.
I was going to say Angel Reese.
Okay,
but
apart from her then. Brad?
Nope.
I only know about Sophia because she stood
Hang on, I'm coming to you. Stop shouting. Mike, apart from those...
I said Brittany Griner already. I also said Angel Reese before, but I gave you two.
And do you know any others, if you're honest?
I'm bad at sports names, period, but no, I don't.
Okay, so. And Lindy? Other than those three?
I only know about Sophia because she defended Caitlin Clark because she was clobbered on the court.
That's true. She was great. But here's my point, really. Caitlin
What's
Clark
the fake name from the Gillis Espy thing?
Well, that's what I was going to play you. So this is what Shane Gillis did this at the ESPY Awards. Let's take a look.
Four-time WNBA All-Star Brittany Hicks is here. Give it up for Brittany, everybody. I'm joking around. That's my friend's wife. I knew none of you knew WNBA players. That's crazy. You clap for that.
And look, it was very funny. And it's not to denigrate at all the WNBA. I think they're terrific players. But the truth is, Caitlin Clark is an absolute superstar of any sport, of any gender, anywhere in the world. And the league's just agreed to an 11-year, $2.2 billion TV rights deal with Disney, Amazon Prime Video, and NBC Universal. TV ratings are up 23%, ticket sales up 26%, tenders up 13%, everything's surging. And it's almost entirely down to Caitlin Clark. And she's been exposed to a lot of rather unfortunate racist undertones, I think, from other players, from fans and so on. But the truth is, they're all doing well out of the fact that there's now a genuine bona fide superstar in the game. And I don't care about her skin colour. She's fantastic.
Can we put this into perspective? Because the WNBA is making $200 million a year versus $10 billion for the NBA. It doesn't even compare. So when they wear T-shirts that say "Pay us what you owe us," it actually means you should give us a pay cut. Because then it would be commensurate.
That's not actually true.
Okay, Briahna.
Well,
Briahna.
So here some facts. You're right, Piers, that the league is making more money than it has historically. It's the most watched season of all time, and there's been a lot of expansion within the league as a consequence. But I think there was some misrepresentation or maybe a mistake about the percentage that the players are getting. The players are saying that because the league is making so much more, whether you want to attribute to Caitlin Clark singularly, I don't think that she can play if she stood on the foul line and just shot, baskets, that people would want to tune into that. No, she has to have a league and other teams to play with. So collectively, they're saying that if you earn so much more money as a league, that we should get a cut of it. And currently, WNBA players receive only 9.3% of league revenue, which is less than 1/5 the share of most other professional leagues. So what they're looking for is parity as compared to other leagues, not something extra that they don't
But the
deserve.
league's still not profitable. It's still losing money, and it's subsidized by the men's NBA. That's the problem. So the revenue is going up.
The specific fact is that the WNBA just signed a new television rights deal that will pay the league $2.2 billion over the next 11 years. There's all of this new money coming in. So how can you sit there and say it's not profitable when the profits are simply going to be other than the players?
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, can I jump in here? So we're talking about the WNBA in comparison to the NBA or other major sports leagues. It's not as old as that. You have to think of the WNBA as a startup, all right? It's an investment that a lot of different private entities are making, including the NBA, including ESPN with their TV contract, to invest in the future of this. So they've got Caitlin Clark, who is genuinely their first major megastar. They're going to continue to invest in building other megastars and over time. If they were asking for equal pay with LeBron James and the rest of the NBA, that would be very silly. But what they're asking for is their basic ability to support their families. And a lot of times you hear look, Caitlin Clark is doing very, very well, I'm sure. But there are a lot of mid-tier, lower-tier, aspirational WNBA players who are working second or third jobs just to be able to make ends meet. And that's not right.
Yeah,
so
fair
I think
enough.
stepping it up a little bit from the top will be good. Investing in it long-term. And by the way, not politicizing sports. It's just really silly
But they do
that.
that. The WNBA does that all the time.
Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense when they take a knee on the court or they take a knee on the field. They are literally injecting politics into sports. They did that. We didn't do that. They did.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was no politics in sports before somebody took a knee, right, Lindy? Never.
Wait, that doesn't completely doesn't address my point. They are the ones who brought politics into sports, the Colin Kaepernicks of the world. That doesn't address my point. Stop
the
that.
armed forces
your position is that
fly
the Colin
jet
Kaepernicks
planes
of the
as an
world brought politics into
advertisement
sports.
for our military over football games. That seems pretty political to me.
Okay, look,
I think the military should be a bipartisan concept. Everyone should support the United States of America.
Okay, I agree with that. Can we just look? I was going to end with a debate about Ellen DeGeneres. There isn't time to debate it, but I do want to just report that she has confirmed the wide-held belief that she moved to the United Kingdom because of Donald Trump saying everything here is better, and she says, "We got here the day before the election and woke up to lots of texts from our friends with crying emojis. And I was like, he got in. And we're staying here. And the only thing I want to say about this is, why? Why the hell do we have to have her? What have we done in the United Kingdom? What have we done? What have we done to warrant Ellen bloody DeGeneres over here? And when will you take her back? Any of you. One of you, put your hand up and say, I'm taking her back.
We refuse to take her back. And I just want to speak to the idea that she had to flee America because it is like so hostile to lesbian people is a joke.
Yeah,
Trump appointed the highest level gay ranking cabinet official of all time.
Exactly. He's not remotely homophobic. And let me also say that the real reason she left America is that she left America under a massive cloud, because unlike her on-screen image of being Miss Be Kind to everybody, all her employees queued up to brief that she was one of the least kind human beings on the planet. So she became very unpopular, lost her big gig, and everybody took against her for being the very opposite of what her public image was trying to pretend she was. And that's why she's come here. Right. To which, again, I simply ask, what have we done to deserve it? Nothing.
Well,
but you can keep Meghan Markle.
Dollars, like no crocodile tears.
We want you to keep. We'll take Prince Harry back. You keep Meghan Markle, and we send back Ellen DeGeneres. Is that a fair swap?
We don't want Meghan Markle as well. Please, thank God.
Briahna looks like she would like to keep Meghan and possibly keep Ellen. Briahna?
I don't really care. I think there's a lot of really important stuff going on in the world. I got a little distracted because I'm thinking about an interview I have to do in a second about the Palestinians.
You know what? You're right.
Starved to death in Gaza. So I'm sorry. I just don't care.
100% right. And I appreciate you staying with us as long as you have. I appreciate all my panel. Thank you all very much. I'll talk to you again soon. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.